Humans joined Space Club. The big day was here. After years of trying, humans were finally going to join the Galactic Council. It was like Earth was a kid who had been begging to sit at the grown-ups table, and now they were getting their chance. The human team walked into the huge meeting room on the space station. Their eyes were wide as they looked around. The room was full of aliens from all over the galaxy. Some had tentacles, some had multiple eyes, and some didn't even look like they had bodies at all, just floating clouds of light. Jake, the leader of the human team, tried to look confident, but inside, his heart was racing. He thought, "We've come so far. We can't mess this up now." The head of the council, a tall blue alien named Zorp, stood up. His voice boomed across the room. "Today, we welcome the newest members of our galactic family, the humans of Earth." There was a mix of clapping, tentacle waving, and what sounded like bubbles popping. Jake guessed that was how some aliens clapped. As the humans took their seats, Jake noticed some aliens whispering and pointing. He couldn't understand their languages, but their faces, the ones that had faces, looked amused, like they were trying not to laugh. Zorp started talking about Earth and humans. "Our new friends have only recently mastered space travel. They are young, but eager to learn." A red alien with 3 eyes interrupted. "Young. They're babies. I heard their ships can barely leave their own solar system." The room filled with alien laughter. Jake felt his face get hot. He wanted to say something, but he knew he had to be diplomatic. Another alien, this one looking like a giant caterpillar, spoke up. "I saw pictures of their ships. They're so small and cute, like toys." More laughter. Jake looked at his team. They all looked uncomfortable. Zorp raised his hands, all 4 of them, for quiet. Now. Let's be kind to our new members. I'm sure humans have some useful skills." A small green alien jumped up on the table. It looked like a mix between a frog and a squirrel. "Oh, I know. I heard they're good at making food. Maybe they can be our new chefs." The room exploded with laughter again. Some aliens were laughing so hard they were changing colors. Jake couldn't take it anymore. He stood up, his chair scraping loudly on the floor. The room got quiet. "Excuse me," Jake said, trying to keep his voice steady. "We may be new to your council, but humans are not a joke. We've achieved a lot in a short time. We've split the atom, walked on our moon, and cured diseases that once killed millions." The aliens looked at each other, confused. The frog-squirrel alien spoke up. "Split the atom. We did that before we invented fire." Jake felt deflated. He sat down, not sure what to say next. Zorp cleared his throat, or whatever aliens do. "Yes, well, humans still have much to learn. But we welcome them and hope they can contribute in some small way." The meeting went on, but Jake barely heard it. He was too busy thinking about how Earth could prove itself. As they left the meeting, Jake overheard 2 aliens talking. "Did you see their ship? It doesn't even have a quantum drive." "I know. And I heard they still used fossil fuels. Can you believe it?" Jake clenched his fists. He wanted to shout at them, to tell them not to underestimate humans, but he knew that wouldn't help. Back on their ship, Jake gathered his team. "Okay, that didn't go great," he said. Sarah, the team's scientist, spoke up. "They think we're a joke. How are we supposed to work with them if they don't respect us?" Jake thought for a moment. Then a small smile appeared on his face. "They'd want to laugh at us. Fine, let them laugh. But I've got an idea. We're going to show them what humans can really do." The team leaned in close as Jake started to explain his plan. They didn't know it yet, but this was the beginning of a story that would shock the entire galaxy. Humans were about to prove that sometimes the biggest surprises come in small packages. As their ship headed back to Earth, Jake looked out at the stars. The aliens might be laughing now, but soon, very soon, they'd see what humans were really made of. And then, well, who'd be laughing then? Humans get mad, make big plan. Jake and his team landed back on Earth. Their faces were long and their spirits low. The meeting with the Galactic Council had not gone well. Not well at all. As soon as they stepped off the ship, reporters swarmed them. Cameras flashed and questions flew. How did the meeting go? Are we part of the Galactic Council now? What are the aliens like? Jake held up his hands for quiet. He took a deep breath and said, "The meeting didn't go as we hoped. We're in the council, but..." He paused, not sure how to say it nicely. Sarah, the team's scientist, stepped up. "They laughed at us," she said bluntly. "They think we're stupid." The crowd went silent. Then angry murmurs started. "What do you mean, they laughed at us? Who do these aliens think they are? We'll show them." Jake and his team pushed through the crowd. They had a meeting with Earth's leaders, and it wasn't going to be fun. In a big room with flags from all countries, Earth's top leaders sat around a table. Their faces were serious as Jake told them what happened. "So," said the President of the United States, "they think we're a joke." Jake nodded. "They called our ships toys. They said we might be good as their cooks." The room exploded with angry voices. The Chinese premier slammed his fist on the table. "This is unacceptable," he shouted. The German chancellor stood up. "We must respond. We cannot let them treat us this way." Jake watched as the room got louder and angrier. He understood how they felt. He felt the same way. But getting mad wouldn't solve anything. Suddenly, a quiet voice cut through the noise. "I have an idea." Everyone turned to look. It was Dr. Emily Chen, Earth's top scientist. She was small and usually quiet, but now all eyes were on her. "We need to surprise them," she said. "Show them something they've never seen before." The room got quiet as Dr. Chen started to explain her plan. As she talked, Jake felt a smile growing on his face. This could work. Dr. Chen finished talking. The room was silent for a moment. Then the Russian president let out a low whistle. "That's ambitious," he said. The Indian prime minister nodded slowly. "It's risky. It will cost a lot." "But if it works," the Brazilian president said, a gleam in her eye. Jake stood up. "It will work," he said firmly. "And when it does, the aliens won't be laughing anymore." The leaders looked at each other. Then, one by one, they nodded. "Okay," said the U.S. president. "Let's do it. Project Dreadnought starts now." The next few months were a blur of activity. The best scientists and engineers from all over the world came together. They worked day and night, pushing the limits of what was possible. Jake watched as a huge ship started to take shape in a secret base. It was like nothing he'd ever seen before. "How's it going?" he asked Dr. Chen one day. She smiled, her eyes bright with excitement. "Better than we hoped. We're combining technologies in ways no one's ever tried before. This ship will be able to do things that will shock even the most advanced aliens." As the ship grew, so did Jake's excitement. But he was also nervous. What if it didn't work? What if the aliens were still too advanced? One night, as he was looking at the half-built ship, Sarah found him. "Worried?" she asked. Jake nodded. "What if we're just embarrassing ourselves again?" Sarah put her hand on his shoulder. "Look at what we've done already," she said. "Humans from all over the world, working together, creating something amazing. Even if the ship doesn't work perfectly, we've already proven that we're not some backward species. We're innovators. We're problem solvers." Jake smiled. She was right. Win or lose, Earth was showing what humans could do when they worked together. As he looked at the ship, Jake felt a new feeling growing. It wasn't anger anymore. It was determination and a little bit of excitement. The aliens thought they knew what humans could do. Well, they were in for a big surprise. A dreadnought-sized surprise. Jake grinned. He couldn't wait to see their faces when they unveiled their secret weapon. The Galactic Council had no idea what was coming. Surprise! Humans have cool ship. Months had passed since Project Dreadnought began. The huge ship was finally ready. It sat in a secret base, hidden from the world. Jake stood before it, his heart pounding. The ship was beautiful. It was scary. It was hope. "It's time," Dr. Chen said, standing next to him. "The Galactic Council is meeting today, and they need our help." Jake nodded. He had been waiting for this moment. "Let's show them what humans can do," he said. As they prepared to leave, alarms started blaring. Red lights flashed everywhere. "What's happening?" Jake yelled over the noise. Sarah ran up, her face pale. "Bad news," she said. "Really bad news. Aliens are attacking the galaxy." Jake's eyes widened. "Who?" "The Council." Sarah shook her head. "No, new aliens. Big, mean ones. They're attacking everyone, even the Council." Jake looked at the ship, then back at Sarah. A slow smile spread across his face. "Well," he said, "looks like it's time for Earth to save the day." The Dreadnought took off, shooting into space faster than any human ship before. Inside, Jake and his team watched screens showing the galaxy. It wasn't pretty. The new aliens were everywhere, destroying ships and planets. "The Council is meeting now," Sarah said. "They're trying to figure out how to fight back." Jake nodded. "Take us there," he said. "Fast." The ship zoomed through space, dodging rocks and enemy ships. Finally, they'd reached the Council's space station. It was huge, like a city floating in space. But now, it looked scared. Ships were flying around it, trying to protect it. "They're not letting anyone in," Sarah said. "They're too scared." Jake grinned. "Watch this," he said. He pressed a button. Suddenly, the Dreadnought disappeared. It was invisible. "Cool, right?" Jake said. "Let's go say hi to the Council." The invisible ship flew right past the guards. It landed inside the station, in a big room where ships usually parked. As soon as it appeared again, alarms went off. "Oops," Jake said. "Guess they noticed us." The team stepped out of the ship. Aliens with guns surrounded them immediately. "Wait," Jake shouted. "We're here to help." A familiar blue alien pushed through the crowd. It was Zorp, the head of the Council. "Humans?" he said, surprised. "What are you doing here? And what is D8? He pointed at the Dreadnought. Jake smiled. "This? Oh, it's just a little something we made. You know, in our spare time." Zorp's eyes, all 6 of them, went wide. "You made that? But how? It's amazing, awesome, super cool," Jake suggested. Before Zorp could answer, the whole station shook. Loud booms echoed through the walls. "They're attacking the station," someone yelled. Zorp looked panicked. "Our ships can't hold them off much longer," he said. "We're doomed." Jake put his hand on Zorp's shoulder, or what he thought was a shoulder. "Not yet, you're not," he said. "We're here to help." Zorp looked confused. "You? But you're just humans. Your ships are toys, remember?" Jake's smile got bigger. "Why don't you come see our toy for yourself?" He led Zorp and some other aliens into the Dreadnought. Their jaws dropped as they saw inside. Lights blinked everywhere. Screens showed things the aliens had never seen before. What is all this?" Zorp asked, his voice shaky. Dr. Chen stepped forward. "This is human innovation," she said proudly. "We combine technologies in new ways. We thought outside the box. We did what you said was impossible." Another boom shook the station. "We don't have much time," Sarah said. "We need to act now." Jake nodded. He turned to Zorp. "So, what do you say? Want to see what this toy can do?" Zorp looked at the ship, then at the screens showing the battle outside. Finally, he nodded. "Show us," he said. Jake grinned. He sat in the captain's chair and pressed some buttons. The ship hummed to life. "Hold on tight," Jake said. Things are about to get interesting. The Dreadnought shot out of the station like a bullet. It flew straight towards the enemy ships. The aliens on board held their breath, waiting to see what would happen. Jake's fingers flew over the controls. "Time to show the galaxy what humans can really do," he said. As the Dreadnought engaged the enemy, Zorp and the other aliens watched in amazement. Their laughter from months ago was long forgotten. Now, their eyes were filled with hope. The humans they had mocked were now their only chance, and those humans were about to change everything. Getting ready for space war. The Dreadnought zoomed through space, dodging enemy fire. Inside, Jake's hands flew over the controls. Zorp and the other aliens watched, their eyes wide with amazement. How are you doing this?" Zorp asked, his voice shaky. Jake grinned. "Just a little human ingenuity," he said. "Watch this." He pressed a button. Suddenly, the ship split into 3 parts. Each part flew in a different direction, confusing the enemy ships. "Impossible," an alien gasped. "No ship can do that." Sarah laughed. "No alien ship, maybe. But we humans like to think outside the box." The 3 parts of the Dreadnought danced around the enemy ships. They fired strange beams that made the enemy ships stop working. In minutes, the attack was over. As the Dreadnought came back together, Zorp turned to Jake. We were wrong about you humans," he said. "We need your help." Jake nodded. "That's why we're here. But we can't do this alone. We need to work together." Back at the council station, Jake and his team met with the alien leaders. The room was tense. Scared faces looked at screens showing more enemy ships coming. "What do we do?" a small green alien asked. "Their ships are too strong." Jake stood up. "Not for us," he said. "But we need a plan. And we need everyone to help." He turned to Dr. Chen. "Emily, show them what we can do." Dr. Chen nodded and pressed a button. A big screen lit up, showing the Dreadnought's special features. "Our ship can do things yours can't," she explained. "It can split up, turn invisible, and even teleport short distances." The aliens muttered in surprise. "But," Dr. Chen continued, "we don't have as many ships as you. We need to combine our strengths." Jake stepped forward. "Here's the plan," he said. "We'll use the Dreadnought to confuse the enemy. While they're distracted, your ships can attack." He pointed to a map of the galaxy. "We'll defend these key points. If we work together, we can push them back." The alien leaders looked at each other. Then, slowly, they started to nod. "It could work," Zorp said, "but we need to prepare. Fast." The next hours were a blur of activity. Alien ships flew in from all over the galaxy. The humans taught them new tricks, showing them how to work with the Dreadnought. Jake walked through the station, watching aliens and humans working side by side. It made him smile. He saw Sarah teaching a group of aliens how to use new weapons. No, she was saying. "Hold it like this. See, now you've got it." In another room, Dr. Chen was explaining the Dreadnought's technology to wide-eyed alien scientists. "The key is quantum entanglement," she said. "It lets us do things that seem impossible." Even the alien who had made fun of human ships before was helping. He was small and looked like a talking plant. Now he was moving boxes of supplies, his vines working fast. "Hey," Jake said to him, "thanks for helping." The alien looked embarrassed. "I'm sorry I laughed at your ships before," he said. "I was wrong." Jake smiled. "It's okay. We're all learning here." Suddenly, alarms started blaring. Red lights flashed everywhere. "They're coming," someone shouted. "A huge fleet of enemy ships." Jake ran to the control room. Zorp was there, looking at a big screen. It showed thousands of enemy ships heading their way. "There's so many," Zorp said, his voice scared. "Can we really stop them?" Jake put his hand on Zorp's shoulder. "We can," he said. "Together." He turned to the room full of aliens and humans. "Listen up. Everyone, he shouted. This is it. The big fight. But remember, we're not alone. We have each other. Humans and aliens working together. That's our strength. He pointed to the screen. They think they can scare us. They think we'll give up. But they don't know what we can do when we work together. Are you ready to show them? The room erupted in cheers. Aliens and humans alike raised their hands, or tentacles, or vines, and shouted. Jake grinned. He looked at Sarah and Dr. Chen, who nodded back at him. Then he turned to Zorp. Well, he said, shall we go greet our uninvited guests? Zorp's scared look changed to a determined one. Yes, he said. Let's show them what the galaxy can do when it stands united. As they headed to their ships, Jake felt a mix of excitement and fear. The biggest fight of their lives was about to begin. But looking around at humans and aliens working together, he knew they had a chance. The space war was about to start, and Earth was ready to lead the charge. Big space battle starts. The moment had come. Thousands of enemy ships filled the sky, their dark shapes blocking out the stars. Jake sat in the Dreadnought, his hand steady on the controls. Around him, alien ships from all over the galaxy got ready to fight. Everyone ready. Jake's voice crackled over the radio. Ready, came the replies from humans and aliens alike. Jake took a deep breath. Okay, let's do this. Remember the plan. Dreadnought will lead. Everyone else, follow our lead. The Dreadnought shot forward, leading the charge. As they got closer to the enemy ships, Jake could see how big they really were. Each one was the size of a small moon. Wow, Sarah whispered. They're huge. Jake nodded. Yeah, but size isn't everything. Let's show them what we can do. The enemy ships started firing. Huge beams of light shot towards them. Evasive maneuvers, Jake shouted. The Dreadnought moved like a dancer, dodging the beams. The alien ships followed, copying its moves. Now let's confuse them, Jake said with a grin. He pressed a button. Suddenly, the Dreadnought split into 3 parts. Each part flew in a different direction. The enemy ships didn't know which one to follow. All ships, attack now, Jake ordered. The alien ships swarmed forward. They fired at the confused enemy, their weapons lighting up space like fireworks. Inside one of the alien ships, Zorp watched in amazement. The humans' plan is working, he said. We're actually hurting them. But the enemy wasn't giving up easily. They started firing back, their huge weapons causing massive explosions. Watch out, Jake yelled as a beam nearly hit them. Dr. Chen, we need more tricks. Dr. Chen nodded. Her fingers flew over a keyboard. Try this, she said. Suddenly, the Dreadnought disappeared. It turned invisible. Cool, Jake said. He flew the invisible ship right up to one of the big enemy ships. Fire everything we've got. The Dreadnought's weapons lit up. Beams of energy hit the enemy ship. Explosions rocked its surface. It's working, Sarah shouted. Keep going. But then something strange happened. The enemy ship started to glow. It was charging up for a massive attack. Everyone, get back, Jake yelled into the radio. The Allied ships scattered just in time. A huge beam of energy shot out from the enemy ship, cutting through space like a knife. That was close, Jake said, wiping sweat from his forehead. Too close, Sarah agreed. We need a new plan. Jake looked at the battle around them. Some of their ships had been hit. Things weren't looking good. But then he saw something. The enemy ships had a weak spot. When they fired their big weapon, a small part of their ship opened up. I have an idea, Jake said, but it's crazy. He explained his plan to the team. Their eyes went wide. That's not crazy, Dr. Chen said. It's insane. It might work, Sarah said slowly. But it's super dangerous. Jake nodded. I know, but it might be our only chance. He got on the radio. Listen up, everyone. I have a new plan. It's risky, but if it works, we can end this fight right now." As Jake explained the plan, the other ships fell silent. Then, one by one, they started to agree. "We're with you, humans." Zorp's voice came over the radio. "Let's do this." Jake took a deep breath. This was it. Everything depended on what happened next. "Okay," he said. "Here we go. Get ready to show these bad guys what happens when you mess with Earth and our new galactic friends." The Dreadnought shot forward, leading the charge once again. But this time, they weren't just fighting. They were about to pull off the craziest stunt in the history of space battles. As they flew towards the biggest enemy ship, Jake's heart was pounding. But he was smiling too. Win or lose, the galaxy would never forget this day. The big space battle wasn't just starting. It was about to get wild. Humans saved the day. The Dreadnought zoomed towards the biggest enemy ship. Jake's crazy plan was in action. Behind them, alien ships followed in a V-shape. "Remember," Jake said over the radio, "wait for my signal." As they got closer, the enemy ship started to glow. It was about to fire its big weapon. "Now," Jake yelled. The Dreadnought split into 3 parts. Each part flew in a different direction. The enemy ship's big beam fired and missed. "It worked," Sarah shouted. "The weak spot is open." The small opening on the enemy ship was visible, but it was closing fast. "All ships, fire now," Jake ordered. Every ship in their fleet shot at the small target. Beams of light filled space, but the enemy ship was tough. The attacks weren't doing enough damage. "We need more power," Dr. Chen said. Jake gritted his teeth. "Time for our secret weapon," he said. He pressed a special button. The 3 parts of the Dreadnought came back together. But this time, they formed a giant cannon. "Whoa," Sarah whispered. "I didn't know it could do that." Jake grinned. "A little surprise," we added. "Now, let's finish this." The Dreadnought cannon started to glow. Energy built up, making the whole ship vibrate. "Fire," Jake yelled. A massive beam shot out from the Dreadnought. It was bigger and brighter than anything the aliens had ever seen. The beam hit the enemy ship's weak spot dead center. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, boom! The biggest explosion anyone had ever seen lit up space. The enemy ship broke apart, pieces flying everywhere. "We did it," Jake shouted. "Their main ship is down." Cheers erupted from every ship in their fleet. Aliens and humans celebrated together. But the fight wasn't over yet. There were still many enemy ships left. "Don't celebrate too soon," Zorp's voice came over the radio. "Look!" The remaining enemy ships were coming together. They were forming a giant circle in space. "What are they doing?" Sarah asked. Suddenly, the enemy ships started to glow. They were combining their power for one massive attack. "If that hits us, we're done for," Dr. Chen said, her voice shaky. Jake looked at his team. Then he looked at the screens showing their alien allies. Everyone was waiting for him to decide what to do. He took a deep breath. "I have an idea," he said, "but it's even crazier than the last one." He quickly explained his plan. The aliens gasped. The humans looked scared but determined. "That's impossible," one alien leader said. "Maybe for your ships," Jake replied, "but not for the Dreadnought. We built it to do the impossible." There was a moment of silence. Then Zorp spoke up. "We trust you, humans," he said. "What do you need us to do?" Jake smiled. "Form a circle around us," he said. "And whatever happens, don't stop firing at the enemy." The alien ships moved into position. The Dreadnought floated in the center of their circle. The enemy's combined weapon was almost ready. A ball of energy was growing between their ships, getting bigger and bigger. "Okay, everyone ready?" Jake asked his team. They nodded, looking nervous but brave. Jake started pressing buttons. The Dreadnought began to change shape again. But this time, it didn't split apart. Instead, it started to grow. The ship got bigger and bigger. Metal panels shifted and expanded. Soon, the Dreadnought was as big as a small planet. Now, Jake said, "We fight fire with fire." The giant Dreadnought started to glow, just like the enemy ships. Energy built up, making nearby asteroids shake. In space, two massive balls of energy faced each other. One made by the enemy, one made by the Dreadnought. "Fire everything," Jake yelled. The Dreadnought released its energy. At the same time, all the alien ships fired their weapons too. Their combined attack met the enemy's big blast in the middle of space. The two forces crashed together. The explosion was so bright that everyone had to close their eyes. For a long moment, no one could see anything. No one knew who had won. Then, slowly, the light faded. Jake opened his eyes and looked at the screens. Where the enemy ships had been, there was nothing. Just empty space. We did it," Sarah said in disbelief. "Humans saved the day," Dr. Chen shouted. Cheers and celebration filled every ship. Aliens and humans alike were laughing, crying, and hugging each other. Jake sat back in his chair, a big smile on his face. They had done the impossible. They had saved the galaxy. As messages of thanks poured in from all over space, Jake thought about how far they had come. From being laughed at to being heroes, it was quite a journey. The day was saved, and it was just the beginning of humanity's adventures in the stars. Humans become space heroes. The big space battle was over. Humans had saved the day. Now, it was time to see what would happen next. Jake and his team landed the Dreadnought back at the Galactic Council station. As they stepped out, they were met with a sea of cheering aliens. Everyone wanted to shake their hands, pat their backs, or wave their tentacles in celebration. "I can't believe it," Sarah said, looking around in wonder. "They love us." Dr. Chen nodded, smiling. "Quite a change from when they were laughing at us, isn't it?" Jake grinned. "I guess saving the galaxy is a pretty good way to make friends." Suddenly, the crowd parted. Zorp, the head of the Galactic Council, walked up to them. His face was serious. "Humans," he said in a loud voice. Everyone went quiet. "You have done something amazing today." He paused, looking at each of them. "We were wrong about you. We thought you were weak, backward. But you have shown us that being different doesn't mean being less. It can mean being more." Zorp turned to face the crowd. "From this day forward, humans will have a special place in our council. They will be our teachers, our protectors, our friends." The station erupted in cheers again. Aliens of all shapes and sizes were clapping, shouting, and making happy noises. Jake felt a lump in his throat. He looked at Sarah and Dr. Chen, and saw they had tears in their eyes too. Over the next few days, things changed fast. Aliens from all over the galaxy wanted to meet the humans. They wanted to learn about Earth, to understand how humans think. Jake found himself in meeting after meeting. Alien leaders asked him about human history, human culture, even human food. "So you eat things called pizza and ice cream?" One alien asked, looking confused. Jake laughed. "Yeah, and they're delicious. You should try them sometime." Meanwhile, Dr. Chen was busy teaching alien scientists about human technology. They were amazed by how humans had combined different ideas to make new things. "You mean you thought of teleportation by watching television?" An alien scientist asked, his three eyes wide with surprise. Dr. Chen nodded. "Sometimes the craziest ideas lead to the best inventions," she said. Sarah was working with alien military leaders. She was showing them how humans plan battles, how they think about strategy. "But why do you sometimes do things that seem illogical?" an alien commander asked. Sarah smiled. "Because sometimes being unpredictable is the best strategy of all." As the days passed, more and more alien ships arrived at the station, but they weren't coming to fight. They were coming to learn, to make friends, to be part of something new. One day, Jake was called to a special meeting of the Galactic Council. When he arrived, he found the room full of the most important aliens in the galaxy. Zorp stood up. "Jake," he said, "we have been talking. We think it's time for a change." Jake felt nervous. What kind of change? Zorp continued, "We want to create a new position in the council. A position for someone who can help us think differently, who can lead us into a new era of peace and discovery." He paused, then smiled. "We want you, Jake, to be our new Grand Admiral of the Galactic Fleet." Jake's jaw dropped. Him, a Grand Admiral. But I'm just a human," he said. An alien with tentacles for arms spoke up. "Exactly," it said. "You're a human. And that's exactly what we need." Jake looked around the room. Every alien was nodding, smiling at him. He thought about how far they had come. From being laughed at to being leaders. From being alone on Earth to having friends across the galaxy. Slowly, Jake nodded. "I would be honored," he said. The room burst into applause. Aliens cheered and congratulated him. As Jake shook hands, and tentacles, and paws, and other alien limbs, he thought about the future. There would be new challenges, new adventures. But now, humans and aliens would face them together. Earth wasn't alone anymore. Humans weren't just part of the galaxy now. They were heroes, leaders, friends to beings from countless worlds. Jake smiled. The adventure was just beginning, and he couldn't wait to see what would happen next. As he looked out a window at the stars, Jake thought, "Watch out, universe. Here come the humans."